This month, Continental Bookshelf travels back to the American Revolution with Washington Spies, Alexander Rose's fascinating account of the father of our country and the birth of modern espionage.
In order to write Washington Spies, I had to be a detective. I had to find nuggets of information that were buried very, very deep in the archives and in very, very obscure sources. Washington Spies were a small group of men, about 5 full-time agents and several sub-agents, people who worked off and on as circumstances required. They were collectively known as the Culper Ring, and they operated in New York, Long Island, and Connecticut throughout the war, and they worked directly for George Washington himself. As a young officer, Washington understood how important good, accurate intelligence was. And so from the beginning of the war, he concentrated on setting up cells and sleeper agents and various other intelligence networks in British-occupied territory. What I wanted to bring out was that there is this hidden aspect of Washington, sort of the shadowy side of him, that helped win the war. We have a certain image of George Washington in our collective minds, the George Washington that we read about and we're taught about, and he's the sort of the almost distant, stern figure on the $1 bill. We don't really know George Washington, and it's because he's such a great American figure. I mean, he is the essential founding father. When you read his letters, as I did, and his diary entries and so forth, dealing with espionage and spying, there is an aspect of Washington in which he likes reading other people's letters. He does like keeping an eye on people. In the 18th century, there were no intelligence agencies. Nobody knew how to spy. There were no instruction books. One of the most interesting facets is how he interacted with the Culper Ring. They had to invent all of their tradecraft. They had to invent an invisible ink. They had to invent a secret code from scratch, which is a very difficult thing to do. The Culper Ring was important to Washington winning the war. When the British occupied New York City for the entire course of the war, there was, to all intents and purposes, a very high and forbidding wall thrown up around the city. Washington had no idea what British movements were, what British plans were, no idea at all. And clearly, to win a war, you have to try and be able to know or predict what the enemy's going to do. The Culper Ring was important for this purpose because for the first time, starting from mid-1778 when the ring starts operations, Washington had eyes and ears within New York City, feeding him crucial intelligence. Many spies are perfectly ordinary men. The members of the Culper Ring certainly were, and who were called on to do extraordinary things. From the very beginning with Washington Spies, I knew that I wanted it to be not only fun to write, but also fun to read. And so it's got action, it's got drama, it's got suspense, and the beauty of it is that it's all true.
Read Washington Spies by Alexander Rose, a Bantam hardcover available wherever books are sold.